money in my pocket. Keep up. So many pretty girls around me and they're waking up the rocket. Keep up. Why you mad? Fix your face. Ain't my fault they all be jacking. Keep up. Players only. Come on, put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24 karat magic in the air. Peace from Serqet, Amun-Ra. 24 karat magic is today's tea talk because it's tea time. Serqet, Amun-Ra has a unique philosophy of life on her own. When did she discover she was 24 karat magic? Well, that's not a hard story to tell. Over the past 7 years, I have begun to know myself. Or should I say, a sort of rekindling with myself. I began to become one with myself. I started to think like a life filled with accomplishments. Some better than others. And of course, along the way, there's trial and error. And I began to put myself on trial. Boy, was that the beginning and an ending. One's own realization of themselves must come as the one. Many parts to the whole, but they all work together for the one. And so I began to explore the different sides of my dimensions. I can't exactly say personality, because we should know that that is just one aspect of the self. You have your genuine personality. You have your ego. You have your pride self. And of course, you have your shadow self and your lower self. And so the journey can be quite grueling if you had
lived your life thus far in the realm of unawares. A lot of people think that you have to spend a lot of time in the realm of unawares in order to keep the portal of opportunity open. But during my 7 self-examination, I have come to find that each level brings us to new understandings and new heights and levels of understanding. Now, there's something called the inner dwelling of a human. Some call it your soul or your spirit. I've come to find out that these two aspects of the whole can be very easily manipulated if you're not careful. If you spend most of your time in the realm of unawares. As I entered into the realm of awareness of my 7 light bodies, I come to find that there's so much more of myself to explore. And so I advance into a realm called a lifetime. And within this realm called a lifetime, the spirit and the soul is constantly moving within the 7 light bodies. When they're all in harmony, it's 24 karat magic in the air. When they are not in harmony, however, this lifetime begins to metamorphosize into a never-ending spiral that the energy seems to flow in the formation of a pyramid. You have your base, and then you have your sides. And so if we travel from the base of the pyramid up to the peak, we find that the direction flows down. Okay, so we're at the base. We flow up to our highest peak. We then begin to climb down back towards the base. And then the base is a certain extent to where you come to a point where you must travel back up to the top of the pyramid. And as soon as you reach the top, once you've gone through the cycle enough times, you begin to understand that as you approach your highest peak, you should then know you must prepare for the descension back down to the base, and then prepare for the ascension back to the top. And as you're climbing to the top, you must understand by now that the closer you get to the top, the closer you are to the beginning of the decline. And then you decline to a point where you're at your base level. And once you move upward from the base, you feel the incline is a lot different than the descension. So you find the ascension is physically and mentally and in a 360 kind of way. The effort, the motivation, the concentration, that it requires to move up the pyramid is far greater than the energy it takes to go down in the descension slope. But once you get so far descended, there is a base level. And once you've come to the peak of that base level, you must ascend. And then the work gets harder. As you climb up, as you ascend, the more you must realize at this point on the ascension path, there is a force that seems to be, it actually is already stationed at the top of the pyramid. And it is aware that you are with all effort, motivation, concentration, you are steadily climbing up. Now, standing at the top, there is the ability to have more force working against you, trying to push you back down to that pyramid base. But onward we march towards the ascension. The closer we get to the peak, the more grueling it gets. But the more you concentrate, the better off you are. The more you motivate yourself. And within that motivation is the element of truth. Yes, I know there's a force at the top, consistently applying the pressure as I fight to climb to the top of the mountain peak. Therefore, keeping the momentum, you shall not be moved. A lot of times we hear catchphrases and different hearings that have been repetitive in our audible galactic control center. As we steadily climb up the pyramid, we are now culminating and gathering out from our 7 energy points to achieve ascension. This is just one of Serqet's philosophies on the geometry of a base triangle or pyramid. I've been doing a lot of work on perception. And I'm going to say I'm doing a lot of work on my perception. Because I realize within the realm of my perception, there are multiple pyramids. There's a multiverse of pyramids. And so I set out on a journey to revisit my 7 energy levels. With a ramped up level of controlled awareness and controlled consciousness. Now, there are times when we have to lighten our solidity, lighten our bodies, become light bodies. Now, there's a few different philosophies to light body. One, your actual weightlessness that you can obtain via the 7 chakras, because gravity and anti-gravity exist in the realm of the 7 chakras. And so, as we're climbing up the pyramid and we're pulling our energies from our inner realms, see, we must understand that we are the one in all its aspects. But you must literally work with your energy centers and I'd like to rename them for my own individuality. And I'm being led to call them magical orbs. The 7 magical orbs, where the alchemy of becoming 24 karat golden magic has actually become one of my most important goals. In the realm of Serqet, 24 karat magic is what we are. As I gaze at my physical manifestation and a physical focal point, which is my Serqet statue, as I begin to intuitively communicate with her, I am first drawn to respect the glow. When I am gazing into her splendor, her energy is also 24 karat gold. You only get to be clothed in 24 karat gold if your 7 energy centers have reached that ascension. Mind you, this may not be considered your highest level of ascension, but Serqet's philosophy is having one foot in the physical realm and the other foot in the afterlife. And so during our communications, I am brought to the ascension on a personal, scientific, the best word to use would be alchemic transformation. This I have found in Serqet to be perfection. The purest gold, 24 karat. Who is Serqet? She's 24 karat magic. And she has come since the beginning in my life. Is where she has allowed me to, some would say, time travel back to me being in my mother's womb, actually. Some of you may have a hard time perceiving that, but I'm going to have to let you draw upon your own levels of energy to meet me at the ascension level, to where you can comprehend what thus says Serqet. Serqet, who is she at this level of perception? 24 karat magic in my life. As I go from the womb to my present state, I have found concrete evidence of her being present every step of the way. I used to wonder why I experienced certain things in my infant stages. From the very moment I came through my mother's womb, I was premature, they say. So I was incubated for, I believe it was 2 to 3 weeks or so. So, literally, you could say, in a way, well, Serqet, she really just works with me, and I can't say that I was alone from the very beginning. But what I can say is that my self as a universe was incubated for a period of time. And I can actually go back to that time in a conscious awareness and see myself in this incubator. Eyes open, looking all around. But not feeling alone. I'm sure in the beginning I gave the nurses hell as far as letting out cries because of the shock of the journey and the shock of leaving my beginnings to enter into this realm. And so before I went from stage 1 to 2 to so on, I came from my mother's womb directly into the incubator. And I can actually tap into how I felt. Honestly, can't say lonely, but I can say detached. Literally. From everyone and everything, including my mother. And so, when I went back into this time, a lot about my present life and the journey was revealed to me. And many of you are going to recognize this when I say it. You are protected by divine entities and angels that are guiding you, pushing you beyond yourself in a transcendent modality. I am Mama Kaba. At this point, it doesn't take much for me to center myself in the oneness and to be back in that incubator. I actually travel there quite often because I'm connecting with my past life before the womb. As I sat there waiting for my chance to incarnate, I go back to being the egg, and I'm sitting there in my environment. And I don't feel threatened by the other eggs. I never felt threatened by the other eggs. They were actually intimidated by me. They all knew I was going to make it through. But I had to ask myself, and I had to go back there and stop and suspend my consciousness at that time. Because they knew I was going to make it. But I had to find out if I knew. But I never felt in competition with the other eggs. Actually, most of the time, they were like my cheerleading section. Like, they were cheering me on. Like, we know we're not gonna make it, but we know you're gonna make it. And so I found myself confident and not in need of anything that I didn't already possess as an egg. I can actually feel on an empathic level when I activate my empathy, because I can actually shut it off whenever I feel like it. But it's an aware shut off, because if I'm in the unawares realm, it's already activated before I can even shield myself. But I can actually feel all the emotions that my mother experienced while I was in her womb. Boy, did she go through a lot. Yes, she did. Brave soul she is. Because she literally persevered with everything in her to give me life, to push me into this realm, to assist me into getting in this realm. Boy, it's even difficult to put into words because it is not words. It's frequencies that emanate feelings which can be equated to words. But I feel like if I didn't have the audibility to explain, I feel I could travel to that place and then touch a person and connect to their emotion realm, and they would very well understand what I could not put into words. I'm pretty comfortable with that at this time. And so, in a way, it's made me become less talkative. And that's not exactly what I want to do. But I'm in the communication stage of, like you would say, deciphering the language. It's like when we our eyes first, gazed hieroglyphics. And you couldn't even begin to try to put a mentality to it, but you felt something on the inside. The symbols triggered. They connected to your 7 energy, galactic energy orbs inside you. That's what happened. And so all that to say, I've become a little less verbal, but my understanding is more. And so we come to a phrase that I've heard in life. Those who speak less know more. And so I'm actually experiencing that at this time. But stages of maturity in life. So I'm actually 49. I feel like my pineal gland was consciously opened just over 7 years ago out of the 49. Because, see, I was just being, if you can understand that. I was in the B realm. And that B realm has the capacity to suck up some time trying to get yourself back to a point of maturity to move to the next energy center. So I want to say I spent a whole extra lot of time in my base of my pyramid, which would be my lower chakras. Like I started there and I began to ascend up. I gather some folks could start at the top and go down. But in all actuality, if I look at my own particular life, I actually started When I came through the womb, I was in that crown chakra already. I feel that incubation period like burnt in the glyphs that I needed to be able to activate in time to come. Because let me tell you, from a young age, life took me to some very peaked places. Very peaked. There was rapid peak, rapid descension, rapid peak, rapid descension, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Very rarely was I able to not only get to base, but to be grounded in the base. But now, let me make this clear. I've never been a knucklehead. I've never been in the not knowing, because I have like a very good perception ability. An extraordinary one, actually. I've written 4 books that are my life story, leading up to a point of maybe 5 years ago. I was able to go from the egg all the way up to there. But then I'm in another energy center activation. And so everything has changed. My writing mentality, everything has changed. So this next process is taking a little bit longer, but to no avail. It will be my finest masterpiece yet. Because the conscious awakening will be all over it. It has consumed it, actually. I am totally not who I used to be, nor do I wish to activate that realm. I understand it now. It's not a threat to me. I have subdued it. It is under my control. I should say. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. Ohanru means thank you in ancient Kemetic language. Uncle Jasanet, peace, love, and light to you all. My only command is that you study the course in conscious awareness. Take the time for yourself. It is worth it. Alone, all alone, in your incubator, shall you find yourself. And no matter how many years it takes to come back to yourself, when you do, the actual portals of life have now opened for your ascension. Never be afraid of the force. It is there to provide the sustenance and stamina. But there's one thing I want to say. In my conscious awareness, I've come to realize wholeheartedly that not all on the ascension path have made it to the peak. Some gave up along the way and cut their own lives short. My words to you today, my friends. If you can get past those dark moments, because they do get dark, very, 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 very dark, when you must face your own inadequacies. It can be very heavy on some. You can make it. You can. Peace, my friends. Thus ends this chat and morning tea with Serqet, Amin Ra. Until our next ascension. Peace, love, and light.
Magic in the air, head to toe so clear. Look out! Second verse for the hustlers, gangsters, bad bitches.